Hey guys, and welcome back to another week of Bible class. I'm excited to be with you guys again. Before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out and say a huge thank you to our sixth graders that participated in this week's video. Big thank you to your parents and whoever, your family, whoever helped you record it. You guys did a phenomenal job, and I can't say thank you enough for your time and the creativity that you guys put into doing those videos. Guys, they set the bar pretty high, so fifth grade, it's going to be your turn this week, and I hope that you're ready to meet the challenge that the sixth graders set for you guys in this week's video. So without further ado, let's get started in this week's lesson. Your homework assignment was to read 3 different gospel accounts of the same story. And the story that we were talking about this week is when Jesus calms the storm on the Sea of Galilee. Now, I gave you guys some verses to read in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, but we're going to look at Mark's account for today's lesson. So if you guys want to get your Bibles open and turn it over to Mark chapter 4, that's where we're going to start. So if you guys have your Bibles open to Mark chapter 4, I'm going to begin reading in verse 35. So you guys just follow along with me there. Okay? It says, "That day when evening came, he said to his disciples, 'Let us go to the other side.' Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along just as he was in the boat. There were also other boats with him. A furious storm came up, and the waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said to him, 'Teacher, don't you care if we drowned?' He got up, rebuked the winds, and said to the waves, 'Quiet, be still.' Then the wind died down, and it was completely calm. He said to his disciples, 'Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?' They were terrified and asked each other, 'Who is this? Even the winds and the waves obey him.'" So in those short 6 verses we read, we learned about Jesus doing this amazing miracle of calming this storm that pops up on the Sea of Galilee. We learn a little bit before that, Jesus had spent the day preaching and teaching people along the shore, and it gets to be later in the day, and he tells his disciples, he said, "Let's go to the other side." So they get in the boat, and they start heading to the other side, and it says Jesus went to sleep, which also, I always like to point this out, guys. Remember that Jesus came down to this earth and lived as a human, just like you and I. He got tired and he went to sleep. He got hungry and he ate. He got angry and he flipped tables over. You know, he lived this life as a human, just like you and I. It's a small but important thing to always remember. But so Jesus went to sleep, and this huge storm pops up and it's taken over the boat. It says that the boat was getting swamped by the waves. These huge waves were coming in. In fact, in one, if you look at the Hebrew translation of some of it, it says earthquake-like waves were coming into the boat, and it was going to take the boat down. It was going to sink it. And the disciples were scared, and they were like, "What is Jesus doing still asleep?" You know, they were freaking out. And one thing I always like to point out in this story is some of Jesus' disciples were fishermen by trade. So they were used to being on the water. They did that every day, day in and day out. It was their profession. They would get up and go get on a boat like you and I would get up and go to school or go to work. You know, so if they were scared of a storm, then it must have been a bad storm, because they'd experienced storms before on the water. They weren't just new to being on a boat. They knew what a bad storm looked like, and they were scared of the storm. I always think of it like I fly a lot for work. I'm on some airplanes, and whenever we might hit like a rough patch of air and the plane might shake, I can always look to the flight attendants, and if they're not freaking out and rushing back to their seat to put the seatbelt on, then I know that I don't have anything to worry about, because if they're not worried, I don't need to be worried, because they experience this all every day. They're on flights every day. But if they're worried and running back to their seats, then I'm going to get worried, because if something's scaring them, it must be really bad. And that's what it was like in this situation. Some of these guys were fishermen for their whole life, and that they were getting scared, it was really bad. In fact, in Matthew's account, it tells us they went and said, "Lord, save us. We're going to drown." So the storm is really bad, and they go and they wake Jesus up. And I can only imagine Jesus, he was really tired, and him waking up and kind of rubbing his eyes and being like, oh, these guys just don't get it. And he goes up and he looks out over the water and the storm that's raging, and he says, quiet, be still. And it is. It went from this raging storm to this calm sea. And then he says to his disciples, what is your problem? Why are you scared? Do you still not get it? Do you still not have any faith? And they're kind of looking at themselves and like, who is this guy? It says that even the winds and the waves obey him. And you have to keep in mind here, they've seen Jesus do some amazing things already. They've seen him heal the sick. They've seen him cast out demons. They saw him turn water to wine. But this is blowing their mind. This is next level for them. You would think that they would have had enough faith in Jesus to know that he wasn't going to let them die in this storm on the Sea of Galilee. And when he wakes up and he calms the storm, he scolds them for not having enough faith. He said, where is your faith? Ye of little faith, where is your faith? But he doesn't abandon them. He doesn't just be like, I've had enough of you guys. You just don't get it yet. No, he continues to teach them and to demonstrate to them what it means to have faith in God. And that's what we're going to learn about in the coming weeks. So now let's catch up with Jesus in this week's edition of News Channel 12.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us here on News Channel 12 with all the news that is news in Judea, Samaria, and Galilee. Speaking of Galilee, it is a region that is becoming more and more interesting with each new report. Jesus of Nazareth, who we have previously reported on, is starting to draw large crowds wherever he goes. He has reportedly healed a number of sick and deceased people, and we've heard that he recently finished a rather lengthy 22-part sermon just outside of Capernaum on the Mount.
One wonders how he could possibly feed all these people if they continue to follow him, and the numbers reach up to 4,000 and 5,000, excluding the women and children, of course. Will Jesus keep making a splash everywhere he goes? Maybe the weather will cool him off. Let's turn it over to Brandon for a special weather report.
Thank you, Willa. It does look like we have some rough weather approaching Tiberias County. Low pressure system has made its way into Damascus. It's bringing with it some very strong winds and storms which could cause earthquakes like waves out of the Sea of Galilee. So if you find yourself in the area, we would advise you to take cover immediately. Whatever you do, don't be in a boat right now. Wyatt is reporting on location to give us an eyewitness account. What are you seeing, Wyatt?
Hello, everyone. It's really coming down out here. These winds are barely letting me stand up. I can actually see the boat out in the water right now. And it's getting tossed around like a kosher salad. It's my understanding that Jesus of Nazareth is on board. But I have to admit, it doesn't look good for them. I imagine everyone on board thinks this is the end. Ella, I'm not exactly sure what just happened. I've never seen anything like this, but the storm just completely stopped. Back to you, I guess.
Could this have something to do with Jesus of Nazareth, our very own? Tyson is standing by to talk to one of Jesus' disciples who's getting off their boat, which has just come to shore.
You were just on the boat out there in the storm with Jesus. Can you tell us what happened?
We were scared to death. We thought we were about to die.
Was Jesus scared?
No. He was asleep.
Asleep? That's incredible. Did he have something to do with making the storm go away? Did he use like a spell or a potion?
No, he just yelled at the storm and told it to stop. I mean, just yelled at it like my mama used to yell at me when I was acting up. And then everything was fine. It just listened to him and stopped. But he seemed disappointed in us. I guess because we were afraid and thinking he couldn't keep us safe.
That is kind of terrifying if you think about it. I mean, who is this that even the winds and waves obey him? We'll continue coverage of this clearly great Jesus of Nazareth as we learn more. It'll be interesting to see what our leaders and own high priest have to say about him. When we come back, the top 3 ways to find lost coins around your house. Good night.